What is up, everybody? This is Erik, the one and only Bear Collector, and today I will be reviewing a game from my youth, a game that brings me so many memories, and that game is Rocky for the Sega Master System. Now, this game came out back in 1987, and you play as Rocky as you go out to defeat the main antagonists of the first four Rocky movies, Apollo Creed, Clubber Lang, and Drago. In that order. So basically you fight these fights to become the heavyweight champion of the world. Basically the game is just a basic boxing game where it's a side-scrolling boxing game where you have your, it's basically like a fighting game. In each intermission you train yourself to get yourself better, but in all is basically defeat your opponent to become the champion. Now, this game is very memorable because back in the days, for those kids who had a Sega Master System, we kids did not have a Nintendo, so obviously we weren't into the Punch-Out games. So we had Rocky. And for us Sega kids in those times, Rocky was the fighting game to have, the boxing game to have. And I remember many weekends with my cousins playing this one. It was so much fun. It was one of those games that I really enjoyed it with my cousins and my friends until finally one of my other cousins had a Nintendo and they had Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And then Rocky became an afterthought. But all in all, playing it and playing the game, the footage of the game, it's a very tough game, very, very hard game. And I even played it with cheats and I still, it was hard. As you'll see in the gameplay, first one was by TKO, second one was by knockout, and the final one was probably going to go to decision until finally I just got tired and I just quit. I could have probably played the whole playthrough of the game because it only has 3 fights. I've beaten it before, but I'm just like, a long time ago. But I just kind of said, it's okay. But it's fun to watch, fun to play, and I had a lot of memories of it. So nowadays, what do I think of the game? I think that it was a product of its time. I think it was decent enough to portray the Rocky movies. Of course, fast forward to the mid-2000s, they did a Rocky game for, I believe, was the PlayStation 2. I remember seeing it. And I don't know if that game, the PlayStation 2 Rocky game, is an expensive game to own. I believe it is, or it's a higher up there. But I never played that one. But, it was a cool game to have, especially for us Sega kids who didn't have a Nintendo at the time and didn't have Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So definitely a decent game for us Sega kids. But playing it nowadays, if you have the nostalgia like I did, you'll be okay. Otherwise, it'd be an afterthought, like I said. I'd rather play Punch-Out. But anyways, this has been my review of the game. Enjoy the footage of the game. See me get my butt knocked out and go through rounds. It was very funny when I recorded it. So, yeah. All in all, do I recommend it? As a collector's, yes. There's not that many games based on Rocky. So, definitely. Other than that, like I said, I'd rather play other boxing games, i.e. Punch-Out. but yeah, can't say it's a memorable game for me. It's one of my childhood games. One of the games of my youth that brought me a lot of joy and togetherness with my family and friends. So if that's something you want to look for, this is a game to kind of check it out. But anyways, this has been Erik, the one and only Bear Collector. You guys take care. See you guys in the next one. Peace out. By the way, not a very expensive game to own. It's not that expensive, so as of the making of this video. But yeah, anyways, you guys take care. See you in the next one. Peace out.
you.